Hello, students of class 12. We shall today learn about the Second World War, which is from your book chapter 7. And in this video, we will mainly concentrate on the factors leading to the Second World War, particularly the aggressive foreign policies of Germany. When Hitler came to power in Germany, he was determined to make Germany a great power again and also to dominate the whole of Europe. Hitler detailed his foreign policy in his book called Mein Kampf. He was clear about his aim as to what Germany should focus on internationally. The main object of Hitler was to destroy the hated Versailles settlement, build up the army, recover lost territories such as the Saar and the Polish corridor, bring all Germans inside the Reich, that is, the territory of German Empire. This would involve annexation of Austria to take territories from Czechoslovakia and Poland. Both of these had large German minorities as a result of the peace settlement. Here are the brief points of Hitler's aggressive policy, which further led to the outbreak of the Second World War. The first, Germany's aggressive policy was to boycott the Disarmament Conference, GermanPolish Pact of 1934, plebiscite in Saar in 1935, German intervention in the Spanish Civil War 1936, capture of Rhineland 1936, Rome, Berlin, Tokyo exist 1937, annexation of Austria 1938, intervention in Czechoslovakia 1938 and the final occupation in 1939, German attack on Poland September 1939 with the final outbreak of the Second World War. Boycott of Disarmament Conference. From the very beginning, Hitler had no faith in the ideals of the League of Nations. He started to arm Germany as soon as he captured power. He considered Germany's membership of the League as the chief obstacle to his desired foreign policy. In 1932, the World Disarmament Conference was held at Geneva. The representatives of 61 states, including Germany, attended the conference. Japan withdrew from the League. Likewise, Germany also withdrew from the Disarmament Conference and the League of Nations on October 1933 on the ground that France did not agree to have equality of armaments with Germany. Henceforth, Hitler started to ignore those clauses of the Treaty of Versailles which restricted her armed strength. GermanPolish Pact of 1934. Some German territories like Danzig, Posen, Silesia and others were handed over to Poland by the Treaty of Versailles. Hitler, on the other hand, wanted to include all Germans in a greater German state. When Hitler's rise to power, it caused alarm in Poland, but unexpectedly, Hitler signed the 10-year non-aggression pact with Poland on 26 January 1934. This pact thus made Poland a neutral buffer state between Russia and Germany. Henceforth, Poland would be less dependent on France for her security. But the real motive of Hitler was to weaken the defense measure of France by separating Poland from France. Plebiscite in Saar in 1935. According to the Treaty of Versailles, the Saar region was detached from Germany. France then occupied Saar region and exploited the resources of the regions for the long 15 years. It was clearly laid down in the Treaty of Versailles that the future of Saar region would be decided by a plebiscite. Plebiscite means a referendum or say the direct popular vote, to be held after January 1935. Nazis then interfered into the Saar regions and continued the propaganda in favor of Germany. On 13th of January 1935, plebiscite was held, which resulted in a 90% vote in favor of reunion with Germany. German intervention in Spanish Civil War 1936. Here Hitler has adopted his aggressive policy in the Spanish Civil War in order to establish his dictatorships. Spain had a republican government which was moving towards communism. General Franco then organized a revolt to save the country from the communists. Thus broke out a terrible civil war there between the pro-communist republican government and the pro-fascist Franco's army. The socialists and the communists of all countries gave their support for the republican government, while Hitler and Mussolini took up the cause of Franco. Ultimately, the struggle ended in a victory for Franco. The Spanish Civil War thus became a dress rehearsal for a greater drama to be played soon on a bigger stage. This incident brought Germany and Italy closer to each other. Capture of Rhineland, 1936. In the Versailles Treaty, Rhineland had been declared a demilitarized zone. On 7 March 1936, Hitler announced denunciations of the Rhineland demilitarization, breaking the rules of the Treaty of Versailles and the Locarno Agreement. Hitler then occupied those parts of Rhineland which had been demilitarized by the treaty. This was the first phase of Hitler's aggressive designs because from then Germany started her war preparations. Rhineland is in the east of Germany, border with France, Belgium, Luxembourg, and Netherlands. Rome, Berlin, Tokyo exists 1937. In 1936, Hitler concluded a pact with Japan known as the Anti-Comintern Pact directed against Russian communism. When Italy joined this pact in 1937, the Rome, Berlin, Tokyo axis came into being. This became a new balance of power against Britain, France, and Russia. Annexations of Austria. Austria is the capital of Vienna. Hitler was an Austrian by birth, and that partly explained his interest in Austria. According to the terms of the Treaty of Versailles, Austria was separated from Germany and their union in future was forbidden. So in the first page of Hitler's book called Mein Kampf, it contained the sentence, that is, German Austria must return to the great German motherland. Hitler wanted the union known as Anschluss. On 25 July 1934, a band of Austrian Nazis attacked the Austrian Chancellor Dollfuss. Italy regarded Austria as a buffer state between her and Germany. Here, buffer state is it means a small neutral country, that is Austria, which is thought to be helpful in preventing the war. And accordingly, Italy granted its independence. When the Austrian Nazis attacked the Austrian Chancellor Dollfuss, Italy sent 3 battalions of Italian force there to suppress the insurgents. The Nazi attempt failed to capture power. Hitler strongly denounced his complicity with this incident. So when Hitler saw that his intervention in Spain had not been resisted by the powers, he came forward to fulfill his plan of union of Austria with Germany. Thus, Nazi agitation was encouraged within Austria, and the Austrian Chancellor was compelled to agree to conduct foreign affairs at Germany's direction and also to appoint a Nazi minister. Finally, on 14 March 1938, Hitler poured troops into Austria and incorporated Austria within German Empire. In this way, Anschluss was complete. That means the annexation of Austria was complete. Intervention in Czechoslovakia 1938 and the final occupation in 1939. According to Versailles Treaty, a new state of Czechoslovakia was created, comprising of Austrian territories of Moravia, Silesia, and Bohemia. This region had a mixed population such as Germans, Slovak, Magyars are the Hungarians, and Poles. The Sudeten Germans were highly conscious of their German blood, and Hitler demanded that Sudeten should be handed over to Germany. Hitler then encouraged and instigated the Sudeten Germans to launch a violent agitation under the leadership of Rhineland, who had formed a German fascist party there. Thus, the situation became critical because if France and Britain supported Czechoslovakia, Hitler would send his army to attain his objectives. In this situation, the British Prime Minister Chamberlain felt that the only way to avoid a general European war was to accept the Germans' demand. Finally, Britain, France, Germany, and Italy signed the Munich Pact on 29 September 1938. By the Pact of Munich, Hitler was allowed to capture Sudetenland and other areas of mixed but predominantly German population. The big powers then declared to protect the remaining part of Czechoslovakia, but this guarantee had little value, for only after 6 months of the Munich Pact, Hitler occupied Prague, that is the capital of Czech Republic, and the rest of Czechoslovakia on March 1939. The Munich Pact was thus the culmination of appeasement policy of the great powers and the warrant of a death for the Western democracy, which later led to the outbreak of the Second World War. German attack on Poland, September 1939. After the Munich Pact, inspired Hitler now demanded the treaty of Danzig. Danzig is the main port of Poland on the Baltic Sea, for the construction of a German highway across the Polish corridor. Corridor is here the restricted tract of land. The Polish government naturally refused to consider the German demand on the basis of Anglo-French guarantee to protect Poland. The British Prime Minister Chamberlain now gave up his policy of appeasement, that is a policy of peace, and declared that Britain would help Poland in case of any German attack. Chamberlain wanted Russia to his side and started negotiations with Russia. While the negotiations were going on, Russia and Germany instead signed a non-aggression pact on 23 August 1939 for 10 years. This pact revealed the imperialistic attitude, that is, a policy of forcefully extending an empire of both the states, because Eastern Europe was partitioned into German and Russian sphere of influence. In this situation, the Polish government invited Germany for a discussion, which Hitler flatly refused. Hitler was now convinced that Britain and France would never risk any intervention in Poland because Russia would remain neutral for the non-aggression pact with Germany, which was signed on 23 August 1939. When Britain ratified the guarantee to Poland, Hitler took it as a bluff. So this was a great miscalculation of Hitler about Poland. He never thought that Britain and France would risk the war. Chamberlain even wrote to Hitler that in his judgment, no questions was an issue between Germany and Poland, which could not and should be resolved without the use of force. So on 1st September 1939, Germany attacked Poland without any formal declaration of war, and on 3rd September, Britain and France declared war on Germany. Thus began the Great Second World War.